All right, let's go now live to Court TV's legal correspondent, Julia Janae, who is in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the courthouse where the sentencing took place. So obviously some very strong reaction from Daunte Wright's family and ultimately some arrests coming out of that, right, Julia?
Well, we know that people have been detained. We don't know the status of those members of Wright's family who were led away by police. This all happened after that sentencing. There have been moments of extreme disappointment, tension, and then there was some chaos that erupted in the minutes and then about an hour after this sentencing happened. Like I mentioned, there was a confrontation here in the Hennepin County Government Center, not in the area where you go past security, but before that security in the area where people can come and go. And there are a lot of different offices here that are not just related to the courthouse. That's where everyone has been staging. And we did see some of that confrontation happen between Wright's sisters and the mother of his child, China Whitaker. Now, first, what led up to that moment, that family was gathered here to express their extreme sadness with this decision by the judge. They expressed that during a press conference, and the mother of Daunte Wright, Katie Bryan, she said she felt that her emotion was ignored by Judge Regina Chu. Take a listen.
We are standing here to say that we're very disappointed in the outcome. Yes, we got a conviction, and we thank everybody for that. But again, this isn't okay. This is the problem with our justice system today. White women tears trumps.
Wow.
Trumps justice. And I thought my white women tears would be good enough because they're true and genuine. But when they're coerced, coached, and taught by the defense attorney, I guess we didn't have a win in this at all. Thank you.
After that press conference, the family dispersed a bit, but people hung around in this area on this floor. That tension was still coursing through the building. We even saw this moment that we have some video of that happened seemingly between a Kim Potter supporter and members of Wright's family. His brother, who actually gave a victim impact statement today, he's there talking to a man you see there who's wearing a blue mask. And the woman who's in the sweater, that's actually Courtney Wright. She's the girlfriend of George Floyd. She has been an extreme supporter of this family. She's been someone who has been vocal. She was a teacher of Daunte Wright. She's been around this family. She was here to support them, and she tried to break up what was happening there. You see the media then surrounding them, and then police arriving and walking him, the seemingly someone who was in the camp that is opposing to the Wright family, away from them. Now, after this, we then had our own interview with China Whitaker. She gave a victim impact statement today as well. She's the mother of Daunte Wright's only son. She had this to say about what she was expecting to happen today.
I'm just very disappointed with the sentencing. 24 months isn't even close to the amount of time that she should have got for taking my son's dad away from him. That was a slap on the wrist, really, and my day is just ruined hearing that news.
What were you expecting? What were you hoping for?
I was hoping for at least 10 years, just at least 10 years.
I do want to correct something I said earlier. Courtney Ross is the name of George Floyd's girlfriend who was here supporting the family. Now, moments after that interview that we did with China Whitaker, she left this area, and members of our team noticed that confrontation that happened with members of Wright's family. And this could have stemmed from something that we noticed earlier. There was a question of who was going to be giving the victim impact statement. There were only 4 people who were permitted by the court to do that, and we know that the parents of Daunte Wright spoke, and also his brother, but also the mother of his child. But there was a question of whether his sister would be one of the ones giving the victim impact statement. We don't know what led up to or what created this confrontation, but that she told people who were around, along with her attorney who was standing there next to her, that they had been attacked in that moment. And what that resulted with was police arriving and putting the sisters of Wright in handcuffs. They were on on the ground, on their stomachs, and then they were led away. Again, don't know if this was considered an arrest, if this was charges, or if they were leading them away just to get them out of that situation, the same way they did with the man earlier when there was a confrontation. But we're still working to confirm what happened. What we've been told by officials right now is that they won't comment on the situation.
Yeah, well, understandably, they're very emotional. Who wouldn't be if they were in their shoes, of course. I want to also ask you a little bit about Attorney General Keith Ellison, because many people will recall that in the months following the shooting, initially Kim Potter was only charged with second-degree manslaughter. It was not until September, 2 seasons later, that Keith Ellison's office, who had since stepped in, then added the first-degree manslaughter charge. He released a statement following today's sentencing. What can you share about that?
He did, Joy, and he was going to give a press conference. That's what members of the media were informed before today. So we were planning to hear him come out in a similar fashion to when Derek Chauvin was sentenced last year. But what we were then told after the sentencing that was handed down by Judge Chu, that he would not be giving a press conference, that he would instead be releasing a statement. Here's part of that statement. He said that he accepts the judge's judgment. He urges everyone to also accept her judgment. I don't ask you to agree with her decision, which takes nothing away from the truth of the jury's verdict. I know it's hurtful to loved ones of Daunte Wright. He also said, I ask that we remember the beauty of Daunte Wright, to keep his memory in our heart, and to know that no number of years in prison could ever capture the wonder of this young man's life. The Attorney General's office was appointed to take over this case, similar to what they did in the Derek Chauvin case. Joy?
Yeah, and I do recall that immediately as you and I were there in the Twin Cities when the verdict initially came down, and at that point Keith Ellison had answered reporters asking about what kind of he would be looking for in sentencing, and he said he would be seeking a fair sentence. Beyond the Wright family, has there been any other reaction to the sentence and frankly the reaction by the Attorney General?
Something interesting to point out about the state's position when it comes to this sentencing. They put in their documents that were filed with the court that they were asking for 7 years and 4 months, and that's according to the sentencing guidelines here in Minnesota. It takes into consideration the person's criminal history, which Kim Potter had none. But in that same filing, they also indicated that they would be amenable to what the defense was asking for, which was probation only, but they had terms if probation was given, that they wanted her to give talks on weapons confusion, that they wanted her to be able to sit down with the Wright family and hear their position on this and anything that they wanted to share with her. And we even spoke to the probation officer who would have reviewed this case to determine for the state what the recommended sentence would be. They recommended probation in this case. So ultimately, the judge coming back with 2 years, which only 2/3 of that will be served behind bars, so 16 months behind bars for Kim Potter.
And Julia, we've been able to retrieve some video of a second incident. If you want to just describe for us the significance of that.
Let's take a look at that. It's a reminder of emotions running high when you are dealing with the situations we see every day in court. It's hard to see because you know the pain that this family is going through, but that pain seemed to also be directed on something that is just an internal domestic dispute when it comes to the mother of Wright's son. There you see one of Daunte Wright's sisters. Immediately after this happened, there were authorities who rushed in. So clearly standing by, but I do want to point out the difference in security as far as visible here. There's not the walls and National Guard and gates that we saw during the Derek Chauvin trial, but clearly there were men and women in law enforcement who were watching to be able to react as quickly as they did to the confrontations that were breaking out here and there in this level of the courthouse. Again, this is not the area that's beyond security. Anyone can walk into this area, so grateful that they were there to make sure anything did not go any further than that. And we don't know the status of why they were leading away the sisters, if that is something that is going to result in charges or if this was just a detaining because of such a volatile situation going on.
All right, well, thank you so much for your coverage. Julia Janae reporting live from St. Paul, Minnesota on the sentencing of Kim Potter and the death of Daunte Wright, sentenced to 2 years. Of course, we're going to continue to follow that story. We're also going back to our coverage of the movie Popcorn Murder Trial as well. We'll have the latest here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.